Hey guys, welcome back for another episode of The Suited Shootist. And as promised, what I want to touch on this week is kind of dovetailing off of last week's video. And the main pieces are going to be talking about style icons and how you can leverage other people's efforts, that have already put the work in to get a good idea of what's flattering, what looks good on them, etc., and saves you doing some homework. So if you haven't checked out that video, definitely go do so. I think you're going to find some use out of it. It's particularly about the pitfalls of how folks can get in trouble trying to emulate the style of famous people. This week, I want to talk about how you can leverage the style of famous people. And I really break it down into kind of two separate categories. The first that I've talked about before, and actually is a question to get into the Bespoke Solutions Facebook group. It's part of the reason why I'm making this video, actually, is who are your style icons? And style icons are folks, it can either be a fictional character or a celebrity, some public figure, who you like the way they dress. And you may not necessarily be able to quantify why yet, but there's something about how they put themselves together or how they get put together that you find appealing. And I definitely think that there is some advantage to that because, again, you may not be able to put your finger on why right away, but it can give you a good jumping off point to develop a better understanding of this style. And for as much as James Bond is a trope in the sort of intersection of style and the gun world, it's not a bad example. Now, when you think James Bond, obviously, the iconic tuxedo comes to mind. He's always immaculately suited, and everything from Savile Row to Brioni to most recently Tom Ford. But especially Daniel Craig's Bond, and to a lesser extent Timothy Dalton's, had a decent kind of breadth of casual attire as well. And so if you are a Bond geek like myself, and if you own the DVDs, or you can just do this Googling, getting a better familiarity with Bond's wardrobe isn't a bad benchmark to kind of start laying your own foundation. And interestingly enough, a book that I got for Christmas, it's called From Tailors with Love, and it's actually a breakdown of the development and evolution of Bond's wardrobe throughout the movies. And even if you're not like a style geek and you're not really interested in the history of it, this is not a bad resource to, again, start developing a bit more of an understanding of some of the details of why the suits that he wore were the way they were. Accessories, footwear, all of that. I've got this in my Amazon store. I will include a link to it down below. But yeah, James Bond is not a bad style icon to work with. And one of my personal style icons that I leaned very heavily into, especially early on in my style journey, was Steve McQueen. The king of cool. You kind of can't go wrong. Now, you have to be careful because if you try and copy things too directly, it can be more of a costume than a style. But I mean, I'm a fan of his work, obviously. And truth be told, especially when things cool off, the whole cut-off sweatshirt, navy blue sweatshirt, and tan chinos with the chukka boots, it ain't a bad look. That was actually something that I pulled when I was over at Edged Weapons Overview a few weeks back. But yeah, Steve McQueen is definitely another good one to reference because he was a movie star, so he definitely had that kind of first page I opened to, completely accidental, don't give a fuck, chilling out in his underwear and shirtless with a necktie. But One of the reasons that he had that reputation that he did was because his style was so authentic to himself. Interestingly, it's kind of one of the critiques that I've heard of his role in the Thomas Crown affair was that he looked a little bit uncomfortable and a little bit out of place in that three-piece suit, and he was much more at home in roles like Bullitt. He actually did his own wardrobe shopping and bought all those clothes at Sears, purportedly. The Great Escape as well, obviously. So he had a good sense of who he was, and his style reflected that. And so you may not necessarily be able to emulate the look specifically, but once you develop a bit of an understanding of it, then you can take some of those attributes and start applying them to yourself. The last one that I'm going to talk about personally is actually the motivation for this jacket that I'm wearing here. It's an unstructured canvas kind of travel jacket, and my wife and I have really enjoyed watching the Stanley Tucci Discovers Italy series on CNN, and in almost every shot he was wearing either jeans or cream-colored pants, a white or a blue shirt, and he had a jacket very similar to this. And so I got online, got on Poshmark, did some Googling, happily found one in my size, and it kind of hits all the marks. It's got the functional buttons, it's from a brand that I like, and arguably it could use a little bit of tailoring, but especially for something that's unlined, unstructured, you don't need that same immaculate fit for something that is going to be this casually worn. But the other piece of this that I think people don't leverage enough, and I haven't, to the best of my knowledge, heard this articulated this way. I'm not claiming ownership of it, but is style doppelgangers. Regardless of where you're at, you've had somebody at some point in your life say, hey, you look like X. Or you've identified a public figure, a celebrity, with whom there's at least some degree of resemblance. Take advantage of that, because again, these people typically have a small team, if not an army, of stylists, image coaches, etc., that anytime they are going to be on camera, they've got people making those choices for them, at least to some degree. And so, I'm not saying that, I'm definitely not saying that you need to emulate like the Adam Sandler 6 sizes too big basketball shorts and a t-shirt that's down past his knees. I don't think anybody should be dressing like that, but that's my opinion. For the style doppelgangers, though, for me, the one that I've found kind of most useful is a celebrity chef by the name of Scott Conant. And we have, roughly the same features, the same bone structure, the same complexion, specifically the same facial hair, because, again, I'm not able to grow like a full Viking beard. This is about the extent of the fullness I can get. Same thing with the mustache. I'm not pulling the Sam Elliott look. I'm never going to be in a remake of Tombstone, but finding somebody who kind of hits those same beats as you from a physical appearance standpoint can help in terms of what works and what doesn't. Now, we both have relatively cool complexions. We both are relatively high contrast, meaning dark hair and, not super dark skin. And that's why I gravitate towards a lot of blues and things, grays and that arena. And if I want to be a bit more adventurous, then some of what I've seen him wear, especially when he's doing stuff like appearances on Food Network shows or TV interviews, those are the things, if I don't want to spend the money and experiment myself, I'm going to see some of the choices that he's made and kind of go yes or no. It's like, do I like it? Do I not? Or am I really going to need to see that on me first? And so, especially if you are in the early stages of developing your own style, I think there's a ton of value in leveraging your style doppelganger. And, it might not necessarily be one person. One of my patrons who is actually a black tie patron, so he gets some one-on-one style consultation from me. He has very traditionally Gaelic features, fair skin, relatively, reddish orange hair, and so just looking for people in the public eye with those features. You may be able to find somebody with the same complexion and build, at which point it's kind of cut and paste. Or if you can't find somebody that looks exactly like you, just look for the high points, because when it comes to color specifically, you may actually have to veer outside your sex to get some, get some good exposure there. Because red carpet, you're going to see a whole lot of the same stuff. I mean, tuxedos, dark suits and things like that. Whereas women are generally able to get away with wearing a lot more color. So if that's something that you want to explore, find some female celebrities that have your same rough complexion and look at what colors they're wearing. I'm not saying that you're going to be wearing an emerald evening gown, but if y'all share some attributes and they look good in dark green, that might be worthwhile trying to pull into your wardrobe in some fashion. So hopefully this gives you a good jumping off point in terms of style icons, style doppelgangers, and how you can leverage both of them. And if you've got questions on that, please put them down in the comments. I love to hear it. These are the types of discussions that we have in Bespoke Solutions. So join the Facebook group. There's always a bunch of great conversation going on over there. And additionally, if this is something you want to delve into a little bit deeper, then that's where the Patreon comes in. So you get a lot more sort of one-on-one attention. There's, like I said, some direct consultation that's available. And we also do some other cool stuff in there. So check it out. Aside from that, hope everybody has a fantastic week. Happy New Year. Stay dangerous and stay sharp.